Hello, welcome back. We're going to talk about storytelling and career change or transition. This is part two. If you haven't heard part one, scroll up or down or go backwards. I don't know, whatever you're looking at, and find what I said first. Okay, so today in part two, what I would like to talk about is the parts of a story. Okay, we're going to talk about some other things as we go forward, but I want to talk about parts of a story. So to tell you the parts of the story, I'm first going to draw this little mountain. Okay, so the reason I've drawn this is that there's this whole concept in teaching storytelling to kids about Story Mountain. And in Story Mountain, you have sort of a beginning, a middle, and an end. And you also have the beginning of the story, the upward trend of the story, like details and facts, right? The climax of the story, and then what happens as you figure out what to do about the climax, and then the end where you have a learning or a theme. Okay, so let me tell my accounting story again. Again, if you haven't watched the first video, this won't make any sense. Using the Story Mountain. Okay, I grew up in a family where there wasn't a lot of money, and in discussing what I was going to do with my life, one of the things that was really important to me was that I find a job where I could support myself and live on my own. My dad suggested that I find a career in something that everybody would always need, so I got an accounting degree. Ta-da! This is the beginning of my story. Along the way, I went to work for a company and was kind of working in payments and in a software company, and I was pretty good at my job, but I didn't love my job, and so there was kind of a bit of ambivalence. I was a mediocre accountant. I didn't like that I was doing the same things across time, and but I enjoyed the company I was working for, and I was good at sort of following the money. Interesting. These are some informational pieces as we climb up the mountain. This is the build up. When I was working at this little payment startup, we found out we had a financial leakage problem, and that meant that really we were dropping money somewhere and I didn't know where. And as the accountant, I knew that, but I didn't know what was happening. So I started working with the engineers, and we started working together to try to figure out where we were dropping that money. And along the way, I started really giving them ideas about features that needed to be built or reporting that we needed. And so we had a problem that needed a resolution. At the same time, I also had a problem that needed a resolution, which was that I had put myself in a career that I wasn't thrilled about. There we are at the top of the mountain. So we started working on the problem. We found the financial leakage problem, and I started really helping them to come up with some features for the product. And my boss came along and said, "Why don't you get into product management?" And I said, "I don't know what that is." This was 2002, didn't know what it was. So as I learned about product management, I figured out that I loved that idea, and it was something that I was already doing. And so I got a product management job at the same company, and I actually was the person who helped the team develop features for this product officially instead of being the accountant. And in the end, what I discovered was that I needed to do something I was passionate about, and we needed to work together to find solutions to actual customer problems, and that I loved product management. Accounting was always going to have served me, and I was always going to be able to support myself, but I needed to do something I was passionate about and that could help me, but also that I could use to help others. Story Mountain. So here's the question. How do you use Story Mountain? How do you know, if you stop, close your eyes and think, okay, how did I get to where I'm at right now? Do you know this story? And could you tell this story? Could you tell it repeatedly? You can change the way you tell it. You can tell a fast version, a slow version, but there is a trajectory in a story. Do you know that story for your own story? Whether that is the story of your career or the story of a certain part of your career or a story around where you're at right now. How did you get to the transition? I'm in the transition. I've been laid off. I quit. I hate my job. I don't like the people I work for. I want to do something new and exciting. I've done everything I can do. I've peaked. Here you are. Now, what are you going to do about it? Do you know the story that got you there so that you can start unpacking how to get to the lesson and the theme, right? To the ending. That is critical, that you start thinking about the parts of a story and your own Story Mountain. I'm going to leave you there. In the next session, we will talk about, I'm not sure exactly which, but we're going to talk about gaps in your resume and how to tell that story. We're going to talk about how to make yourself memorable, because listen, if you just have a white resume, congratulations. But if I'm looking at 100 resumes, how do you make yourself memorable in that resume so that I say, put that guy on this pile or that lady on this pile, I want to talk to them? How do you make yourself memorable in resumes and interviews, in networking events? And then how do you make sure that you tell your story in a way that your values come through, who you are comes through, so that you can find a match with a company whose values match yours? That's what'll be in parts 3, 4, 5. Okay? Talk to you soon.